for joining for another session of Azure Power Lunch. As you know, that we record these calls and place our recordings on our YouTube channel. So just if you don't want to be recorded, you may want to drop off now. Kumar, floor is yours. Take it away.
Thanks, Naveed. Good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to Azure Power Lunch. Happy Friday. Today we will be talking about one of the new features that was introduced in Azure AI Search called Agentic Retrieval. Before I jump onto this new feature, I don't want to assume that you're all familiar with the AI search in Azure. So I just wanted to give a primer on what exactly it is. AI search is actually cognitive services, but it has been renamed to Azure AI Search because it falls under our AI umbrella. It's actually a search engine within the Azure ecosystem. It's a fully managed PaaS service. Some of us call search as a service. But essentially, it allows customers or developers to, index the documents, search, retrieval, enhance all the, take advantage of all the features. So that's what it is. Today, it supports you to upload your input data from your, let's say, local file system, although it's okay for POCs, but essentially you upload the data into Azure Blob Storage or ADLS Gen 2, Cosmos DB, some of these data sources that we support today. And then you can enhance the search using semantic ranking. The good thing is product AI search inherits all the Azure security features, you name it, in terms of security, networking at a global scale. It's enterprise ready. So wherever Azure is available, you can provision or use this service for high availability, disaster recovery, and whatnot. And it fully integrates with most of the Azure AI services, Azure OpenAI, the machine learning, and whatnot. So I put a documentation link. Please to take time to look at it if you aren't familiar with this feature. Because I just wanted to provide this primer before I jump into the feature, which is actually one of the an advanced feature that we recently introduced. It has been in public preview, but we recently GA'd it. Okay. So with that, I'm moving on to the next slide. So in the AI search, obviously, you kind of index your documents or data. Then there are ways to retrieve it. When we first started off, you can just do a full. You can retrieve the documents using a full text search, right? For example, you can ask a question. Hey, give me some hotels in a particular city, right? So, and then it retrieves the information. So it's full text. And over the years, we have enhanced it to the vector search because the queries that the users input continues to expand, right? Then we introduced a hybrid search, which includes the combination of full text plus vector search. And then in the last year or two, we have introduced this retrieval and augmented generation, right? When this AI became popular, like ChatGPT, Azure Open AI, where it grounds the data instead of retrieving the data from a web. It also searches from your enterprise data, grounded data, and retrieves the information. Now we have introduced agentic search, and that's what I'll be talking about. Okay. So let's look at the evolution of our search engines. So we all use search engines countless times a day. You go to Bing search or Google search or wherever it is. We ask a question and it returns some results, right? Obviously, traditional search systems generally work with keyword matches. You could just say hotels in New York or beaches in Hawaii, whatever it is. And based on the keywords, as well as some ranking algorithms, it returns a particular, the URL, whatever it is. And that's okay. When we first started off or got familiar with these search systems. But what if the question we ask or the user asks is kind of complex in nature, or it involves multiple subtopics, like hotels in New York, but it has to be in downtown, or it has to have all these features, blah, blah, blah. I'm just giving you some silly example, right? That's where this agentic retrieval comes into the play, right? So agentic retrieval, as the name suggests, is it operates with an agent, a kind of intelligent intermediary, specifically for AI search. This means some sort of a new processing architecture that runs behind the scenes that essentially uses your conversation history using LLMs, large language models. That includes Azure OpenAI. That's what we use typically to kind of intelligently break down the search, runs it in parallel fashion. So a search that the user enters is kind of broken down into multiple queries and then consolidated. On top of that, we add some of those semantic ranking and whatnot, and it returns a meaningful search that makes more useful to the users. So instead of simply looking for a keyword search, it tries to understand the meaning and context of your question, right? You started off a question and then you continue to add more questions, ask more questions. So it understands the context, where exactly you are coming from. Are you planning for a vacation? Are you searching for some sort of a history or maybe poetry and whatnot? So based on that context, it returns some meaningful responses, right? So essentially it breaks down a complex question into smaller manageable chunks or sub questions, I would call. And then it adds on top of it the vector-based indexing, semantic queries and whatnot, right? So that's what it is. And then what it does is on top of it, it adds some AI, which returns some sort of a natural language responses and gives some more meaningful responses to the end users. And the research shows this approach can significantly increase answers relevance up to 40% in conversational AI applications, right? And that's what it is. It's all about the AI, the user context, right? So let's talk about traditional versus agentic retrieval, because that's what we are talking about. Why is it that I have to, think about it or you adopt this new interface? So if you look at the traditional retrieval methods, it follows a standard approach. When a user asks a question or a query rather, right? So what happens here? User asks a question. It kind of searches again its index database, index documents, right, to retrieve the relevant documentation information. And this process is okay, but typically static in nature and predefined, right? And then what happens is the retrieved information is integrated into the prompt provided by one of the LLMs, large language models, to generate a response. But this approach relies heavily on the initial retrieval step, right? And that's where the query execution is. And this traditional approach is okay, but it's like a single request and response, typically like a client and server model, making it less effective for complex queries, right? And again, this all worked great in the initial phase, but as we continue to adapt new technologies, new models, it may not fit to our ongoing, ever increasing needs, right? So the limitation is obviously the qualities of response is highly dependent on the initial retrieval step. The initial retrieval step is good, retrieves the right documentation or the good. But if not, then it may not correctly align query. And sometimes you may find it, the response may be inaccurate or irrelevant. I mean, you have seen that when you do a Google search or maybe a Bing search for that matter, right? But now on the right-hand side, let's talk about agentic retrieval, right? So what it does is, we kind of use some sort of an autonomous reasoning and decision making, right? It dynamically retrieves from multiple sources and refines its search, and that's what we are talking about. Executing these parallel queries to enhance the search and applying semantic ranking on top of it to give a more meaningful results. And what we do is we use these parallel subqueries. It's essentially another query engine within Azure AI Search. It kind of breaks down complex queries into smaller subqueries in parallel instead of just running one thread, multiple threads rather, right? This ensures both keyword matches as well as semantic similarities are built on top of everything, right? Most importantly, these days, it's all about context evaluation, right? So agentic retrieval assists retrieved information first and checks for consistency based on the user context and requests additional data if necessary. It all happens behind the scenes. It's not like user needs to do something. It reads, for example, it reads the chat history as an input to the retrieved pipeline, right? And then it could rewrite the original query by understanding the user's context, right? And if there are any spelling mistakes, obviously it does it too. But finally, the AI, the LLM, kind of based on multiple sources, integrates into retrieved knowledge, generates a context-aware response, right? So when you use agentic retrieval, there are several things involved. One is obviously AI search, which is okay. But then when it generates a response, you'll be using LLMs or in this case Azure OpenAI search. Azure OpenAI, one of those models, GPT 4.0, 4.1 Mini, some of the new models that we support, right? Which gives you more accurate and contextual response compared to the traditional methods, right? So, I put together some samples, right? Like how a small query looks like in a traditional method versus an agentic method. So you ask a question, what's the weather like in a particular city? So if you use a traditional retrieval, before agentic came into the play, it retrieves the latest information and done with it. It could simply say, today's weather is so-and-so. And that's what I meant by a straightforward approach, right? Without any, breaking down the queries or context evaluation. But on the right-hand side, if you see, the agentic retrieval kind of breaks down the query into subqueries, and then the response is fed into the LLM, and LLM generates the natural language response, which includes comprehensive data, temperature, humidity, and forecast, and what it looks like and whatnot. So that is where it means by contextually generated information. So agentic retrieval can be used for small queries as well as complex queries. But like any other feature, it comes up with an additional cost. So it's completely up to you as a developer or end user. Do you want to use a traditional retrieval for small queries and use agentic retrieval for complex queries? But you can use both. Sorry, you can use small queries and complex queries for agentic retrieval. So here, once again, you see, I'm asking a complex query, right? Generate some financial data based on the budgets. So typically what happens in this case, and again, for agentic retrieval, we all know it's static in nature. It all depends on the retrieval system, initial retrieval. But for such a complex query, the agentic retrieval does is, it kind of breaks down into small queries. For example, it identifies the departments and their allocated budgets, retrieves the actual spending data. And then it could also compare budget info versus the actual spending. And sometimes it could do some sort of a highlight discrepancies, if any, right? And finally, it could analyze the causes and propose actionable savings. So it does all those things, kind of breaks down these queries. When you provide a complex query, it breaks down. It runs in parallel. It retrieves the information and it rewrites the query, right? And then it provides a meaningful response. On top of it, we have a feature called semantic ranking, where it gives the semantic ranking based on which query is more suitable and relevant to the question that was asked. So finally, we do provide an intelligent response generation. So the AI weighs in multiple sources, integrates into the relevant knowledge, which is kind of grounded based on your enterprise data. and generates a context-aware answer. And obviously, this approach provides more accurate and contextually relevant data compared to static data that you guys typically see from the web. And now you could ask me, you know, all right, that's great, but how will this new fancy search method really helps me, right? Essentially, typically these days, when you build these chatbots or AI assistants, you do need some sort of a context-aware information, right? And you do want it to make sure the information, finding that information is indeed relevant, right? You do not want the AI assistants, provide some irrelevant information. That's where this agentic retrievals really comes in handy, right? Essentially, it gives us, providing some context-aware information, but in the form of a parallel process. Four things: analyzes the entire conversation history to determine the user's need or underlying information, breaks down the user's query into the subqueries, right? Run each subquery simultaneously against the text fields or embeddings in your index. And then we apply semantic ranking to re-rank the results of all subqueries and merge the results into a single query, and that's what it does. All these things behind the scenes. But it is some sort of a programming APIs that you have to invoke when you build these applications. So you need to be familiar with these the right methods that you have to use, whether you use in Python, .NET, or what are some of which I'll show you in the demo. Okay, so this is where some of these benefits that this agentic retrieval can provide. Okay, so so we talked about, I briefly spent some time on AI search, and it told you how it all evolved from a text search to vector search to hybrid search, and then retrieval augmented generation, and then for agentic RAG. I talked about the traditional versus agentic retrieval methods, how it will really help us. I just wanted to mention that, traditional retrieval performs simple searches, that is great, returns direct matches, which I showed you, after leading to generating responses, and that's okay most of the times, right? In contrast, agentic retrieval, is a next step forward, right? Kind of breaks down the complex queries into subqueries, retrieving the detailed information, and combines the results for richer responses. So, and I do believe, based on the initial customers we spoke to and the samples that we are building internally within Microsoft as well as the customers, agentic retrieval seems like an exciting step forward in search technologies, especially in this era where AI-powered applications and chatbots are becoming more prevalent in our lives. And as such, the need for systems that can provide smarter and, most importantly, context-aware answers to your complex questions. This new capability in Azure AI Search offers developers more tools to meet this need. So that's what we call it out, meet the customer wherever they are, right? This makes agentic retrieval more suitable for complex multi-step queries that requires both retrieving and generating information a lot, right? So sounds like an exciting step is what the initial feedback is from our customers. We kind of announced it in the build conference. So it's available. We encourage you to take a look at it. There is a nice example that our development team put together. Please do take advantage of it. So typically, the way it's going to look like is I'm going to share my screen real quick. So can you guys see my Azure portal? So this is my Azure portal. Okay, I have created this search engine beforehand, and so what I did is I created an index beforehand by retrieving some document from one of the public place. So this is my index data. As I mentioned, the AI search supports some data sources. So you could use Azure SQL, blob storage, Cosmos DB, Azure SQL, and all those things. So most of you may be familiar with it, but if not, these are the data sources that we support today. So I have kind of indexed the documents already, right? So typically what happens is, and this is the sample that we put together. So please to take a look. So let me quickly show you. Just give me 1 second. Yeah. So what happens is typically, so anytime you do something, this is a programmatic way of doing this. You first create an index, and that's what this chunk of code does, right? So this chunk of piece of code creates an index, an index named at night. So that's what we created that index. And then what we do is I uploaded some sample documents. This is, I kind of got this from public repository. It kind of retrieves some data from NASA's at night ebook. So we uploaded this document. So we need to have some sort of a data source, right? And we uploaded that, and then we kind of indexed it. Okay. So now what we do is using agentic search, these are all the programmatic APIs that you have to obviously leverage to do that. So I create an AI agent, which is what it does, set up the messages. And then, so this is where the meet. So you will be using these new Python SDKs or in your favorite programming language. So you will have to use this agentic retrieval to retrieve the right information. So for example, let's see. So I'm asking this question. So since I already indexed the documents, so I just go here. So I got this, if I ask this question here. So I got this information. So there's a lot of relevance for all the documents. It is telling me what's the relevance score is and all those things. But obviously, then this data is fed into the LLM, which generates a meaningful response. That's what this whole feature is. And then you retrieve the response, you fed to Azure OpenAI client. See, I was telling you, you need to use LLM to do that. And then finally, when you ask a question, it generates a meaningful response in the LLM format, natural language format. Now you're done with it. Now you wanted to ask a follow-up question. So you wanted to continue the conversation. Now, when you ask a question, how do I find some follow-up question? And this data is also exists, but you wanted to have some context aware so that your answer is more meaningful, right? So that's what it does. So when you ask this question further, it retrieves the response, but then this response has to be more formatted, make it more meaningful to the end users. You don't want a response like this, right? I mean, it doesn't make sense to the end users, especially when you are building a chat bot or AI assistants and whatnot. So and then again, what you do, you fed this to the AI, and then it kind of gives you this meaningful information. Programmatic feature that you will have to use the right APIs to take advantage of this. But the more you try, you will see the beauty of this. But I just wanted to kind of share how this agentic retrieval really enhances the search into complex queries and gives you more meaningful data. So if you look at this documentation page for AI search, this is where you'll find this retrieval method. So when it comes to the AI search, we have to first upload the document, index the document, which is what I did by uploading the data. And then you can apply some conversational AI with all these methods. And then you can use, remember I was telling you, we started off with the full text, and then we went to the vector, now hybrid, and then RAG, and now we recently introduced the agentic search. Okay, so please take a look. There are some excellent samples. some good examples that we have together. Remember, I was telling you, we take the input query and we kind of break it down, and then we merge it and return it back to the end user. So it's all happens behind the scenes. From the end user perspective, they'll simply ask a question, but we do all these things on your behalf, and we apply some of these. I mean, obviously, it only supports the latest AI, Azure OpenAI model. So make sure you are using the right model or the latest one. So in my case, for example, I'm using GPT 4.0. So if you see, this is my environment. So I'm using this one. You can use one of those. So if you do this, this is what it does. So essentially, I already indexed the document. So here I'm asking a question. For example, if you see, so use agentic retrieval to search the results. So that's pretty much it. You can actually clone the repo. You can clone the repo, then you can just play with this example. You'll really like this, the great features of this. That's pretty much it in terms of agentic retrieval. It sounds like an exciting feature that we all should give it a try, take advantage of it, and let me know if there are any questions or comments. That's pretty much it. Maybe from my side. I think I'm on time.
Thanks, Juan. No, thank you. Any questions, folks? We have 3 more minutes.
So I just had a quick question. So what customers have you worked with or are getting feedback from people that have used this before? Like what industries are you seeing it really being quite useful? As I'm thinking like health records or something along those lines, because health records can be so complex and come from so many different sources. Would that be something that could, I mean, I can picture it in my own mind, but I'm not sure if that would be something that this.
Great question. Yeah, obviously, yes. It all depends on the query that the user submits, but also it works for the simple queries. Here, we in the preview process, it's actually just I think a couple of weeks ago, this feature went to GA, but during the preview process, our development worked with a lot of customers to take the leverage of this. I think there are some manufacturing customers, some healthcare, but I don't have the list, but I can look up and share with you offline. But yeah, I think this could work for the healthcare as well as the manufacturing, because sometimes when they are searching for this foundry data or the EDA data that they work with, they really supply some complex queries, but they wanted some meaningful data, right? Because the HPC ecosystem hasn't fully adopted it, but they started seeing the benefits of this the agentic retrieval. So certainly.
Yeah, it very much looks, I mean, it's very, it seems like it's probably quite fast and
Right.
yeah, no, that's amazing. I mean, it's amazing. Healthcare records are insane. So this I could see how this could be applied to that. So thank you for showing us. I really appreciate you showing and walking through this. I'm gonna totally check it out. So
yeah, there are some nice samples in .NET and REST APIs. So at the end of this page, so our engineering has put together. So I'm asking people to take advantage of it, try it out. But yeah, so you need to have an LLM, and then you need to have an AI search with a standard tier that's created. So, but otherwise, yeah, it works great. I was myself impressed when I really tried it out yesterday.
Oh, that's cool. It's very cool. It's very cool. So thank you. That was a great demonstration.
Thank you.
So thanks again.
Any other questions, folks?
I'll stop sharing, Navid.
There are no other questions. Thank you for everybody for joining the call, and hope to see everybody next week for the Power Lunch session. Thanks, Kumar. Have a wonderful
Thank
rest
you.
of your day and a great weekend. Thanks.
Thanks, Naveed. Talk to you guys
Thank you.
later. Bye.
All right. Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
Amber.
you.
Bye. Take
Bye.
care.
Bye.